Good day to you, students. Today, we are going to learn about the topic invertebrates. Before we go into our class, I want you guys to have a look at the pictures given here. See, you can see the jellyfish, the octopus, the krill, the tarantula, the earthworm, and the tapeworm. I'm going to give you a few seconds to look at the main features of these animals. In today's class, we are going to imagine the different examples of each phylum and to compare the differences between phyla. Before we learn much deeper about invertebrates, let's first know about the facts of invertebrates. We know very well from the last lesson, the whole of animal kingdom is divided into two major divisions. The first one is vertebrates and the second one is invertebrates. What are invertebrates? Invertebrates are animals without backbone or they have a bony external skeleton, right? Remember, we studied in our physics lesson about exoplanets. Exoplanets means the planets that's outside the solar system. That means outside. Exo means outside. So some of the invertebrates have exoskeleton. That means skeleton outside the body, which gives the shape to that particular organisms. Some of the organism doesn't have skeleton at all. Invertebrates are the largest group in animal kingdom. They comprise of about 97% of the animal kingdom. Why they are so large in number? Because they quickly reproduce. Invertebrates are classified based on their body structure and their life cycle. Invertebrates are divided into 7 phyla or phylum. You might be wondering what is meant by phylum. Some of you might think, yes, teacher, we remember because we studied about this in the last class of hierarchical classification of taxonomy. Just recall the last lesson. We studied about kingdom, right? The next order of kingdom is a phylum. So phylum is the second in the hierarchical classification of taxonomy. What is phylum? Animals that are grouped with similar characteristics are called as phylum. Certain animals can walk with 4 legs, certain animals can walk with 8 legs. So all these animals are grouped together, forming as phylum. So the group, when it is said as singular, it is phylum. When we have many groups, we call it as phyla. So invertebrates are divided into 7 phyla. What are they? Let's see. Please, whenever I say the phyla's name, repeat after me for better pronunciation. The first phyla is Nigerians. You might be thinking, teacher, we have a C there. C is silent over there. Okay, pronounce it as Nigerians. The second one is flatworm. Third, annelids. Fourth, nematodes. Fifth, mollusk. Sixth, echinoderms. And the last of them is arthropods. Let's learn about the first phyla, Cnidarians. The examples of Cnidarians are jellyfish, hydra, and there are some other animals. But let's take only two of these as examples. Where does the Cnidarians live? They are mostly marine. Yes, you're right. They live in salt water. Look at the structure of the Cnidarians. Look at the structure of the jellyfish as well as the hydra. Look at the hydra's body. It is cylindrical and the jellyfish body is bag-like structure with tentacles. What are tentacles? Can you see the finger-like projections or the thread-like structure that's been here? And in hydra, you can see the finger-like projections. These are the tentacles. What is the use of these tentacles? These tentacles are useful in capturing the food or grabbing up their prey. So this phylum of animals are called as Cnidarians. Let's move on to the next phylum, flatworms. As the name itself says, when you look at these organisms are flat. Can you say these are cylindrical? No, they are completely flat. The examples of these are tapeworm and liver fluke. The body of these flatworm is flat and unsegmented. Usually these flatworms live in contaminated soil and water. When plants grow in these particular conditions, the larvae of these organisms adhere to them and reach the host when they eat them. That's why we usually say always wash your vegetables and do not play in contaminated water or soil. When you wash your vegetables with hot water and salt, most of these larvae of tapeworm or liver fluke will die and you won't have any kind of infections. Again, we have learnt about flatworm. Example of flatworm is tapeworm and liver fluke. The next, annelids. I repeat, annelids. Example of annelids are earthworm and leech. Look at the structure of these organisms. Body is long, round, and segmented, isn't it? Now, these annelids live in a very moist area. They live in a place where it is always wet. And look at their bodies. They are segmented. Can you see the lines over there? These are the segments of the body which helps in the movement of these organisms. Remember, I asked you to have a look at the organisms in the first page. I would like you to take there, please. Now, look at this side. Can you see the earthworm moving? Yes. See, their bodies are segmented. See how they move. They compress their segments and then release it for their movement, isn't it? Now look at this. This is a tapeworm. Now can it move? Though it's segmented, it's unsegmented and it is flat. It cannot move. But look at the earthworm. The body is round, cylindrical, and segmented. Right? The next phyla we are going to see is the nematodes. Nematodes examples are roundworm and pinworm. Where we can find these nematodes? The same, in contaminated soil and water. Nematodes have long and thin body. Nematodes have long and thin body and sometimes cause infection to the host. The next phylum we are going to study is about the mollusk. The body of the mollusk is so soft and protected by a shell, or sometimes they don't have a shell at all. Examples of mollusk are snail, pearl oyster, and slug. Look at the snail here. It has a shell and it has one muscular foot. Don't imagine that foot in the sense it should be the same size of our foot. No. The place or the muscle which helps them in movement is called as a foot. So, snail has one muscular foot. The next one is pearl oyster. Bahrain is famous for its pearls, isn't it? The pearl oyster has two shells where it's been washed away by the water currents, and the movement happens for these pearl oysters by that method. The next animal we are going to see in mollusk is the slug. Does the slug has any shell? No. Slug doesn't have any shell. It has one muscular foot. So, in the phylum of mollusk, the body is soft. Either it is protected by a shell or no shell. Examples of mollusk are snail, pearl oyster, and slug. The next phylum we are going to see is about echinoderms. Examples of echinoderms are starfish and sea urchin. I know you might have seen many starfish, right? Now, where do they live? They are always marine. Remember, I have told you what's meant by marine. Lives in salt water. Yes, you guys are right. When you look at the starfish and the sea urchin, you can clearly see that the body is covered by spiny skin. You know what's meant by spiny? Very sharp, right? And it has an exoskeleton made up of calcareous shell. Remember, students, when we learnt about the facts about invertebrates, we spoke about exoskeleton, which gives the shape to that organism. And this exoskeleton is made up of calcareous. Calcareous means made up of calcium. So in the phylum echinoderms, the examples of it are starfish and sea urchin. They are always marine. Body is covered by spiny skin and it has an exoskeleton made up of calcareous shell. Now let's have a quick AFL. Give any one difference between pearl oyster and slug. Think about it. Yes, pearl oyster has two shells and slug has no shells, or slug has a muscular foot. Good job. Let's move on to the next one. Give any one similarity between slug, snail, and pearl oyster. Similarity means which is the same, right? All of these three animals have soft body, all are invertebrates and belong to the phylum mollusk. Whoever thought of a correct answer, you're doing great. Let's continue with our lesson.